One of the most interesting things about the "nothing to the imagination" headlines is how they contrast with her private life. While the world saw a woman who was always showing off, her friends said she was actually quite lonely and shy when the cameras were off. She spent most of her time with her son, Daniel, who was the light of her life. She wanted to give him the world. She used the money from her bold modeling jobs to make sure he had the best education and a comfortable life. This is the part of the story people often ignore. They see the G-string photos and the wild parties, but they don't see the mother who was trying to break the cycle of poverty she grew up in. She was playing a character for the world, because that is what paid the bills. As we get deeper into her story, we have to talk about the year 2006. This was the year that changed everything and led to her tragic end. Anna Nicole was pregnant with her second child, a daughter named Danielyn. She was so happy to be a mother again. She gave birth in the Bahamas, and for a moment, it seemed like she might finally find peace. But just 3 days after her daughter was born, her son Daniel died in her hospital room from an accidental overdose. He was only 20 years old. This was a blow that Anna Nicole could not recover from. The woman who had fought billionaires and the Supreme Court was finally broken. She had lost the one person who had been with her since the very beginning, before the fame and the photos. This is the part where you need to pay close attention, because the way the world treated her after Daniel's death was truly shocking. Instead of giving her space to grieve, the media started a huge fight over who the father of her baby girl was. There were several men claiming to be the father, and it became a circus. Anna Nicole was in deep pain, both physically and emotionally. She was still being followed by photographers every single day. The same people who stared at her revealing photos were now staring at her grief, waiting for her to make a mistake. She was lost in a fog of sadness and medication, trying to figure out how to keep going for her new baby while her heart was buried with her son. Only 5 months after her son died, Anna Nicole Smith was found dead in a hotel room in Florida. She was only 39 years old. The cause was an accidental overdose. The news shocked the world. Suddenly, all the people who had called her indecent or a gold digger started saying how much they missed her. The photos that left nothing to the imagination were now being looked at with sadness instead of judgment. People realized that she was a woman who had been searching for love and security her entire life, but she looked for it in a world that only wanted to use her for her beauty. She was a victim of a culture that builds people up just to watch them fall. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end of this video. It is important to remember these stories not just for the gossip, but for the lessons they teach us about fame and kindness. Anna Nicole Smith's life was a roller coaster that ended much too soon. We hope this video gave you a better understanding of the person behind the pictures. If you found this story moving, please feel free to look through our other videos where we explore the lives of icons who changed the world. There are so many stories out there that deserve to be told with heart and truth. Until next time, take care and remember to look a little deeper at the people you see on your screen. When you hear the name Anna Nicole Smith, what is the first thing that comes to mind? For many, it is the image of a stunning blonde woman who took the world by storm in the 90s. She was a woman who seemed to have everything: beauty, fame, and a personality that was larger than life. But lately, people have been looking back at her old photos, specifically some very bold and revealing shots that have resurfaced online. Some say these pictures leave absolutely nothing to the imagination and show a side of her that was perhaps too wild for the time. But was she just a woman who loved the camera, or was there something more going on behind those famous eyes? Today, we are diving deep into the life of Anna Nicole Smith to understand why she lived her life so out in the open and why, even years after she is gone, she is still one of the most talked about women in history. You definitely want to stay with us until the very end of this video, because the truth about her final days and the secret she was carrying is far more heartbreaking than any headline you have ever read. To understand the woman in those famous photos, we have to go back to the beginning. She wasn't always Anna Nicole Smith. She was born Vicki Lynn Hogan in a small town in Texas. Growing up, life was not easy. Her father left when she was very young, and she was raised by her mother and aunt. She didn't have a lot of money, and she didn't have a fancy education. In fact, She dropped out of high school in her first year. At the age of 17, she was working at a fried chicken restaurant. It was there that she met her first husband, Billy Smith. They got married very young and had a son named Daniel. At that point, it looked like Vicky Lynn was going to live a quiet, normal life in a small town. But she had a fire inside her. She didn't want to just be a waitress or a housewife. She wanted to be the next Marilyn Monroe. She knew she had the looks, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get out of Texas and into the spotlight. This is where her journey into the world of modeling began. She started working as a dancer to make enough money to support her son and to pay for the changes she wanted to make to her appearance. She eventually moved to Houston and started modeling for local ads. Her big break came when she sent some photos to Playboy magazine. They loved her. She had a look that reminded everyone of the classic movie stars of the past. In 1992, she became a Playboy playmate, and suddenly, the whole world knew her name. This was the moment Vicky Lynn Hogan died and Anna Nicole Smith was born. She was everywhere. She was the face of Guess Jeans, appearing on giant billboards in New York City. She was a superstar. But with that fame came a lot of eyes, and people started to focus on how much of herself she was willing to show. When we talk about photos that leave nothing to the imagination, we are talking about a woman who is completely comfortable with her body. Anna Nicole didn't see nudity or revealing clothes as something to be ashamed of. To her, it was power. She grew up with nothing, and suddenly, her body was the thing that was giving her everything she ever dreamed of. She modeled in tiny outfits, including the famous G-string photos that people still talk about today. For the early 90s, this was very bold. While other models were trying to look thin and high fashion, Anna Nicole was curvy, proud, and very open. She enjoyed the attention, and she knew that the more she showed, the more people would talk. And boy, did they talk. She became a symbol of a new kind of celebrity, one who didn't care about being classy in the traditional sense. But as her fame grew, so did the scandals. One of the biggest things that people still judge her for today was her marriage to J. Howard Marshall. He was an oil billionaire who was 89 years old at the time. Anna Nicole was only 26. When they got married, the media went into a frenzy. They called her a gold digger and said she was only with him for his money. People pointed to her revealing photos and her public behavior as proof that she was an indecent woman who was taking advantage of an old man. But if you listen to those who knew her, they say she truly loved him. He was one of the few people who treated her like a human being and not just a trophy. Regardless of the truth, this marriage changed how the public saw her. She wasn't just a pretty model anymore. She was a villain in the eyes of many. After her husband passed away, Anna Nicole spent years in court fighting for her share of his fortune. This legal battle lasted for over a decade and went all the way to the Supreme Court. During this time, the pressure started to show. The happy, glowing girl from the Guess Jeans ads started to fade. She began to struggle with her weight and with prescription medications. This is when the media coverage became truly mean. Instead of helping her, people laughed at her. They made fun of her reality TV show, where she often seemed confused or out of it. They looked at her bold photos from the past and used them to claim she was never a serious person to begin with. It was a very dark time for her, yet she kept the cameras rolling. She felt like she had to keep being Anna Nicole, even when she was falling apart inside.